Hello and welcome to TelecomTV's exclusive content from here at the SDN and Openflow World Congress in Dusseldorf in Germany. We have a panel discussion at the moment, and in this session I have three guests who are extremely knowledgeable upon the subject, which unsurprisingly is SDN and Openflow. So without further ado, let me introduce on my left Diego Lopez, Senior Technology Expert, Telefonica I&D. Next to him in the middle is Don Clarke, Principal Architect, Network Technologies at CableLabs. And last but by no means least, at the end there is Ian Hood, Business and Technology Architecture at Cisco. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm going to throw this open to whoever wants to answer it to begin with, just to kick things off. I want to put this to you. Openflow was supposed to be the key SDN protocol, but life didn't quite turn out like that. Reality intruded, and it was going to sweep everything before it, Openflow, but it hasn't done. There are a lot of protocols out there now. Some are saying there's a plethora of them. Do you think it's having an effect in as far as it brings choice, certainly, but the corollary of that is that it complicates the environment, and there have been mutterings in various corporate groups saying we're not so sure about this now, there's too much choice, not quite sure where we're going to go with this. So do you think it's a fact there are too many protocols, and do you think an attempt should be made to simplify and narrow the field? I don't know, who'd like to start?
Well, no, I could. Yesterday we were, during one of the sessions, we were talking about the problems of monocultures. And so Openflow could be the most important one, but having a monoculture there would be really dangerous and much worse than having the diversity. At the end, I think that the point is that having a diversity is good by definition. Maybe a so wide diversity right now is a sign of that the field is evolving, but what we do really need are abstractions and tools for manage with this diversity and manage with the concept of SDN itself.
Okay, thank you. Ian, over to you.
Well, the thing is that getting to one protocol would be a nice option for us, but we have a lot of legacy that isn't going to move anytime soon. These services don't get turned off, and it really is about services and delivering those. And if I can use these abstractions that Diego talked about across my collection and use whatever protocol is necessary to get to it, then that's how we'll deliver the service. And limit how many of those they do and use the best protocol for the best service delivery.
Okay. Don, how about you?
I'd agree with both those points of view. I mean, for us at CableLabs, we're very focused on Open Daylight, for example, in our project work. And one of the things that we've done with Open Daylight is we've created a plugin for Open Daylight, which is a packet cable multimedia plugin, or PCMM. And we produce that plugin because it drives our legacy equipment. So it's an example of, you can't go just to one protocol because there are a lot of different varieties of equipment out there that need different protocols.
Okay, but are there too many, sorry to interrupt you, but just let me add this. Do you think there are too many? Regardless of this, is it possible to get it down to a sort of smaller, more manageable number, or is the reality that there are just going to be many? There's
always going to be many, and at the moment I do believe there are too many, and we can find ways to kind of consolidate and figure out where they need to live. And if we kind of look at the different domains that we have to work in, if we look at our Open Daylight controller that we have a domain that will use Openflow sort of in data center and enterprise or university. But then we'll use things like BGPLS, path computation in the WAN. Then I got to talk to legacy optical. So, and then in mobile, they're just starting to figure out how to move from their world of 3GPP, with GXGY, those kinds of interfaces, and decide which protocol they're going to use as SDN under that. So, fix it to the domain to deliver that service in the best way, and use the ones that fit that, and keep a small number in that area, and then use a different small number in the other domains. The real key is how do I orchestrate and automate this, and this is where Diego's talking about it, across those domains that deliver those services and automate that. So if we can automate the things, it really doesn't matter what the protocol is at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe one of the problems is that in the network space, people is too much used to think in terms of protocols. Instead of thinking in terms of services, instead of thinking in terms of the programming framework they're going to use. If you make the same analogy when coming to the in general the computing industry, it's like a database programmer was concerned about which processor it is using or which model of a disk. it's the database is running. Nobody cares about that. When you're designing the database, nobody should care about the control protocol when you are designing a service or you are designing the network. I mean, the network, the network topology and the network concept that you're going to provide.
Okay.
And for me, the protocol is almost the enabler. As Ian said, it's about the services. And so the thing is, how do you define services? How do you abstract the design and operation of your services from the network? And the protocol is an enabler for that. But of course, things like information models and data models, which define the service and define the topologies. I mean, for me, that's where we're focusing currently now. Not so much on protocols.
Right, because the other key to this is building a service model as the abstraction of the service, and then apply that to the devices underneath. It isn't just about dealing with those devices, because we're doing the same thing, dealing with thousands of devices. If I build a service model that I can apply to any device with the abstraction, that's what gets me that automation, that speeds these things up. Now, if we talk about protocols that are going to get added to what's going on, there's been a very recent phenomenon to deal with the fact that in traffic engineering networks, those protocols actually have scale issues, the traffic engineering for MPLS and RSVP, and so we and other vendors in the community have come up with what we call segment routing to allow us to use existing IP MPLS protocols and do the traffic engineering in band to actually get control protocols out of the network so we can scale them, right? So there's different things we're doing with protocols to solve different problems. Right, and that's not where everybody's thinking in the world of delivering services. Is how do I solve all the problems of the networking? I can't do them all with just one protocol.
Makes good sense. Can we move on? I'd like to ask you about mobile. You mentioned it, Ian. What is the state of play vis-a-vis SDN and mobile?
Telefonica being a mobile operator.
No, well, it's something that is interesting is that when it comes to mobile is something that is wide field as well.
Sure.
If we're talking about the last mile or the access media, well, so far I would say that we are starting to consider what to do. We are starting to consider what to do because this is the need of having some the applications in the mobiles. In the mobile, it has to have some kind of intelligence and to agree on the protocols and the abstractions. When it comes to the mobile backhauls and the mobile core, there are two directions. One is that we are trying, at least in my team, we're trying to show that the convergence with the fixed core is possible. We aim for a unified core in the midterm. And apart from that, we have made some interesting results recently. Last week, we made a demonstration of a proof of concept that we have been doing together with the ONF, precisely to show the applicability of SDN concepts and the Openflow model, at least, in mobile radio-based backhaul. It was promising.
Okay, thank you.
And
Ian.
just like with a large diversity of protocols out there, with mobile there's lots of what we call middle boxes in the network, right? And that's where NFV comes in this world to allow us to virtualize those, service chain them together to build a service, and that's really kind of where the mobile teams have kind of been focused on, is how do I move what I can to the virtual world. And it's really about having that abstraction of the service and being able to program it and automate it. And kind of where people are headed initially is, let's not try and take out the macro network and virtualize that. Let's see if I can solve this problem for an enterprise and build his entire mobile infrastructure on his prem with macro, small cell, whatever he needs, and deliver that as a service to him, right? Using this programmatic automation kind of thing, the same way you would for a business service who is, as Diego was saying, we want to converge that and have the same architecture for both of these things and deliver the service, whether it's a mobile customer that's delivering it off of that site or off to an end customer that's, as Don was saying in the cable side, coming off a cable plant, right, to be able to deliver these services that way. So that's kind of where we're going after, is on the services side, specifically in that market, and let's take off what we can actually solve initially and then figure out how we can scale it.
Right. Don, from the CableLabs perspective.
And that's kind of where the challenges are, is that we avoid that we produce stovepipe solutions for different network use cases. So, for example, the mobile network use case is a very exciting use case. Huge waves of investment in mobile right now. We're looking ahead towards 5G. Most people believe that 5G will be built upon NFV and SDN principles, although the requirements obviously are still being defined. In fact, in Montreal right now, I think the 5G NGMN team are meeting up there. So clearly the requirements of mobile are very important, but then looking into the fixed networks and looking into other use cases like virtualizing CPE, then what we need is a network that can support all of those. And so for me, when coming back to the protocols again, it's to say that yes, protocols enable different network elements to be managed from the SDN infrastructures, but what we want is an SDN infrastructure that will support both mobile and fixed use cases. So in my mind, avoiding that divergence in the industry towards the mobile case or the fixed case is very important. Otherwise, we're going to have networks that aren't going to deliver the vision that we've got, which is about being able to scale in, scale out as network demand changes. For example, during the day, a lot of mobility, but at night, people are sitting in front of their TV sets. And we want those resources then to be reused. So that's very important to avoid that divergence.
Okay, thank you.
And that's where the policy piece comes in, and that feedback loop between where I want to put these resources to deliver it, because I want to be mobile to use this service, at this instant, and then I want to do it as Don says in my home. So how do I make sure that the service is available to me with the right quality in any of those locations I want to do it? And if I can't apply policy across this combined mobile and wireline network, then that's the other angle is, get the information out of the network with analytics, apply policy to it from both a subscriber perspective, a service perspective. Those are the other things that are going on to allow us to, personalize the services that we all want to be able to consume whatever service anywhere, anytime.
Okay, thank you. Last few minutes of the discussion, let's look at where we are. We're in Dusseldorf in Germany. We're at the SDN and Openflow World Congress. What do you think, each of you, is different this year to last year? How are things progressing? Have the main themes, the main talking points, the technologies, what's the emphasis now as opposed to last year? What material difference is there, do you think?
I think for me, obviously it's just the first day, so I had a chance to get around the exhibition yet, but clearly what we're seeing now is products appearing, aren't we? So the last 2 years it's all been about the technology, the enablers. Now you're actually seeing products, and vendors are coming up to me and talking to me about the deployments that they've got, and they've got real equipment out in the real network doing real business value applications, and in fact I'm really a little bit surprised in some ways that that's already happening, because NFV was a fairly massive new transformational idea 3 years ago, and now products are on the market. So for me that's the difference. It's the realities coming into play.
Ian?
I'm seeing more, we had sort of what I call little science projects, I guess, in POCs last time around. Now what I find is that we've kind of gotten to the next level of those proof of concepts and kind of putting more of the pieces together rather than just one little tiny piece of the puzzle. So the POC is expanding between multiple vendors with the operators, because we've got one with Orange, one with SKT, one with SoftBank. So there's a lot more of those things going on. TELUS has got one downstairs with the Canadian team that they're showing off. So seeing a lot more activity with more pieces in play than just the little tiny bit of the puzzle. So a more solution-oriented kind of thing is being demonstrated, and we've definitely seen lots of deployments from, whether it's the Deutsche Telekoms, the Telekom Italias, that have already deployed some of these things, and then over in China, the mobile ones.
Okay, good stuff. Diego?
And apart from that, I'm seeing, and it was part of the discussions we have had, is precisely about the convergence of the SDN and the NFV technologies. For quite a while, it was like water and oil. NFV was laid on top of SDN, and that was all.
Yep.
And now we have found that we have to make some kind of a sort of a mayonnaise, and mix everything into a single.
And there's really
a single compound of the
right, but there's really a third element
technology
to the puzzle. You got SDN, you got NFV, and you sort of got the combination of open source and orchestration automation tools, right?
Yeah.
So it's really a collection of technologies, not just SDN and not just NFV, and it's about delivering the things that allow us to automate the delivery. So those things coming together is really what's kind of happening now.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's something that is progressing, and you see in the products, and you see in the discussions that precisely the experience is not any longer of toy examples. It's about people is coming with real problems.
Yes.
And that's, on the one hand, the problems are big, but on the other hand, it's good that people have starting to realize of the size and the nature of this real problems.
And NFV and SDN are enablers, aren't they? I mean, Ian, you said at the very beginning, it's about services. And so for me, you know, things will move more into what I think is more exciting territory, which is about what services and applications are enabled by this stuff. And you know, you mentioned, Diego, analytics, and for me, you know, that's where the real innovation starts to happen. It's analytics that can be applied to these networks because they're based in software, deploying probes, deploying new types of analytics right deep inside the network infrastructure to do things like security, surveillance, and fault management, and all those kind of things.
And even in some cases, they're using them to actually assess the value of a service that they're offering. You know, the Australians are doing this and applying this technology, analytics, to their network so that they can say this service isn't really taking off, let's make some changes and tune it, and now I can adjust the services and change the service options that I have to my customer. So there's also the ability to kind of adapt your service on the fly by having that kind of visibility to the network.
Okay, well, we're just about out of time, unless anybody wants to have one last poke at anything, but other than that, we're out of time. So I'd just like to say, Diego Lopez, Don Clarke, Ian Hood. Gentlemen, thanks very much indeed.
And thanks again.